What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do a top-down analysis, which is basically just taking the higher time frames and then working them down until we get to the lower time frames and basically just mashing them all together. And I'm going to show you guys how to do it the correct way. So basically all that we're doing when we're doing a top-down analysis is the higher time frame is going to be for the direction of the market, directional, and then where we find our areas of interest. And then the lower time frame is just where we're going to find our entries and confirmations along with order flow and seeing how the lower time frames are respecting the higher time frames. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the higher time frames. We're going to look at the trend of the market. We're going to make sure the higher time frames are in sync, and then that's when we find our areas of interest. And once we find our areas of interest, we're going to wait for price to tap into that area of interest. And that's when we go down to the lower time frame to look for our entries, confirmations, and order flow. And then that's when we enter the trade. Okay, let's start on this trade that I took last week. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did a top-down analysis on this trade and what exactly was going through my mind. Okay, so boom. The first thing we want to do is determine the trend, and that's what our higher time frames are for. So the higher time frames that we use are going to be the 4-hour, and the daily, and the weekly. Those are going to be the 3 time frames that we use to determine the trend and see where the market's going. So I usually start off on the daily. Right now I see that the daily is bullish because we closed above this lower high right here. So I see that we're bullish. That's one time frame in sync. Okay, then we go down to the weekly. I see that the weekly is bearish because we closed under this higher low. Okay, and then now I see that the 4-hour is bullish. So we have 2 time frames in sync. All we need is at least 2 time frames in sync, whether that be the 4-hour and the daily or the daily and the weekly, not the 4-hour and the weekly because they're too far apart. So this scenario, we have the 4-hour and the daily bullish. So we have 2 time frames in sync. So we're going to go with the trend. We're going to go bullish. So now once we find a trend on the higher time frames, now we have to find an area of interest on either the daily or the weekly. We do not find areas of interest on the 4-hour. They're just not as respected enough. So in this market, I see that we need to find an area of interest. So we found an area of interest. We see this area of interest right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 rejections, making this area valid. So we have a valid area of interest. So now we wait for price to tap into the area. Price is on its way to the area right here. And let's see what price does. We tap into it. I have a big rejection candle right here. Okay. A lot of rejection at this area. Okay. So I see prices having a lot of rejection at this area. Boom. Let's look at the 30-minute. The 30-minute still is bearish. So what we want to do. Okay. So yeah, I'm going off track. So we found the trend on the higher time frame. Then we found the area of interest on the higher time frame. Those are the 2 things that we needed to find with the higher time frames. So now, once we find out all that stuff, and then once we hit that area of interest that we found on the higher time frame, that's when we're looking for rejection on like the lower time frames, like the 2-hour, 1-hour, 30-minute. We see that we have a whole bunch of rejections on the 2-hour, 1-hour, 30-minute, but everything's bearish. And if you guys know my strategy. I need for the lower time frames to shift. So now this is when we go to the lower time frame to look at the order flow, to look at the confirmations, to look at for our entry. And we have not gotten our entry yet because we are bearish. So the 30-minute is bearish between this low and this high. So we have to break either this high or this low to shift structures. For us to go bullish, we have to break above this high. For us to get new market structure, we have to break below this low. Okay, let's just see what happens. Price finally breaks below this low, shifting the structure. So then this becomes our new lower low. This becomes our new lower high. So then now we just waiting for price to shift structure to bullish. Price shifted bullish. Okay, so we got one of our entries. And then get our pullback with our engulfing candlestick right here. Okay, so we got our entry now. Okay, so we found the higher time frame trend, we found a higher time frame zone, and then we looked at lower time frame confirmations and rejection, and then we looked at our lower time frame entry. So we just got our lower time frame entry, which is a shift of structure along with the pullback and engulfing candlestick. So right here, get our pullback and engulfing candlestick, and then we put our stop loss 10 pips below the lowest point. The lowest point would be right here under this wick. So this wick right here is at 29 pips. So I'm going to put it at about like 39 right here. And then we're going to put our take profit at the higher high on the daily. It would be right here. So it gives it about a 1 to 3.4. And I'm also going to give you guys some more free sauce on what else to look for on the higher time frames. So before I took this trade, I see the 4-hour bullish, and we have the daily bullish and the weekly bearish. And then we're at a daily area of interest that we found. And then we have candlestick rejections on the 4-hour. See if we have any on the daily. We have one candlestick rejection right there on the daily. A rejection from previous structure point. This would be our previous structure point right here. It's basically like if price looks like this is our previous structure point. If price looks like this, then this is our previous structure point. If price looks like, here, let me create something like this. This is our previous structure point. That's basically what a previous, I don't really know how to explain it that well, but that's what our previous structure point. So this would be our previous structure point. Okay, and then since our highs right here, previous structure point is over here. No rejection from previous structure point. Actually, yeah, we are on the 4-hour candlestick pattern. We have a little break and retest. Price broke above this area, and now we're coming back to retest it. So we got a cool little break and retest pattern. And then are we testing any EMA? The EMA is, if the EMA is in the area of interest that we have on the 4-hour, daily, or weekly, then we put that. If any other time frames we do not have any EMA right here. And then the round psychological level. Okay, we have a round psychological level of 1.845000. And if this number is anywhere in intervals of 500 inside the area of interest, and it's inside the area of interest, then we put that on our grade. And then we got the shift to structure with engulfing candlestick. As you guys can see, that puts us at a 95% on this trade. So now that we graded it, we know it's an A trade setup. Now all we do is enter the trade because it obviously follows our plan. And let's watch it play out. And boom, we hit straight to take profit. Literally went straight up to take profit. It's very simple. How you do a top-down analysis, get the higher time frames, you find the area of interest, you make sure everything is in sync. Then that's when you go down to the lower time frames, make sure the lower time frames are respecting that higher time frame area of interest, and then make sure the lower time frames come in sync with the higher time frames, and then that's when you enter the trade and then catch that big move. So basically all we're doing is just catching the higher low or lower high. Right here, we catch the higher low right here. We predict it basically. Okay, now here we have another market that we can obviously see is bullish on the daily. And then if we go down to the weekly, we see that we're obviously bullish as well. Big old move to the upside right here. Obviously bullish. Okay, so we have 2 time frames of seeing so far, all bullish. And then as of right now, the 4-hour is also bullish. Higher high, higher low. Okay, so now we know the trend of the market. We have 3 time frames in sync. Now we need to find an area of interest. So find an area of interest, you guys know, is to mark your higher high and then mark your higher low. And we're going to look inside of here and look for an area that gives us at least 3 rejections. I already found an area because I took this trade this week, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rejections. So we have 7 rejections, very valid area of interest. So now all we do is wait for price to tag into that area of interest. So we have the higher time frame, we have the trend, and we found an area of interest. Now we just wait for price to tag into the area of interest. And as you guys can see, tagged into the area, and the 4 hour is bearish now. So now what we want to do is wait for the 4 hour to shift bullish, and then we want to look for our entry signal. As you guys see, we got some rejections at this from this area. So candlestick rejection right here, candlestick rejection right there. A lot of candlestick rejection on the daily. This looks like a perfect, beautiful trade. And if we drop down to the lower time frames, also looks good. But we are bullish on the 2 hour, the 1 hour, are bearish on the 2 hour and the 1 hour. Okay, and then the 30-minute as well. So let's wait for this. Let's wait for the 4 hour to give us a shift of structure. Okay, so 4 hour shift structure. Now we want price to pull back and then give us our entry signal. Okay, so we're gonna go down to our 30-minute and then wait for price to give me a pullback and an engulfing candlestick. As you guys see, we already shifted bullish right here. Price shifted bullish, so we want to wait for price to come back to the area and then give us our engulfing candlestick. Boom, we tagged back into the area. Price gave us this engulfing candlestick. We enter right here. We put our stop loss, like I said, under here, right at the area. And then we're going to put our take profit up to here. And then we're going to let this trade play out. And the same thing as the last one. Price went straight to take profit. We waited for price. And then we also, what I forgot to mention, is that this was a head and shoulders pattern right here that we came back and retested the neckline, which gave us even more confluence in the trade. 105%, 115% trade setup actually. This is a beautiful trade. 3 time frames in sync. Daily area of interest. We have candlestick rejections from the 4 hour, the daily, and then we have a weekly candlestick rejection right here as well. Then we have a candlestick pattern, 2 on the daily, or yeah, 1 on the daily, sorry. We have this break and retest pattern. Price broke above this area, came back, retested it, obviously rejected it beautifully. 4 hour has this head and shoulders pattern, boom, 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 retesting this neckline, beautiful. We're not rejecting any EMA on the 4 hour daily or weekly, but we do have a Ryan psychological level of 145.500 inside of the area of interest. And we got our shift of structure on the 30-minute along with the pullback and engulfing candlestick right here. So that puts us at 115% for the trade. And as you guys can see, this is what 115% trade looks like. And as you guys can see, all it was is this higher time frame confirmations, higher time frame trend, get the 4 hour, daily, and the weekly in sync. And then once we find out the trend of the market, if we have 3 time frames in sync, at least 2, we're going to be looking for a daily or weekly area of interest. Now once price tags into that area of interest, that's when we're going to drop down to our lower time frames, and then we're going to make sure that we're respecting this area, make sure that we're rejecting it, and then we're just going to be waiting for the lower time frames to sync up with the higher time frames, give us our pullback with an engulfing candlestick, and then we enter the trade. And then we're going to be looking for candlestick patterns, rejections, EMA, round psychological levels, all that extra stuff that puts more confluences into the trade and more into our favor. But I'll get into all that in another video. But if you guys want to catch these trades with me, you guys want to chop it up with me every day, I go live every day at 6:30 for everybody in my Discord. And if you guys want to trade live with me for free, click the link in my bio. And if not, thank you guys for watching the video. Just make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.